Hi, Amanda. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. So I know we've discussed this a lot in class, but just looking forward in terms of preparing for our field placement interviews. Can you remind me again what brought you to this program? What brought you to social work?
So I originally started as a criminal justice major in Sacramento at Sac City College, and my professor, I feel like she really listened to me as a student, and based on what I would say in my discussions and how I'd write my papers, she kind of recognized that I was in that field kind of more as a helper. I wanted to I was more in the rehabilitation part, and she actually came to me one day and suggested that I change my major to social work, and explained to me, that she had been, really listening to things I was saying and all of that, and that criminal justice she thought was too narrow for what I really wanted to do, and that really sparked, something for me and made me kind of go into the research and start applying, and that's how I got here.
Cool. I mean, it sounds like you're a really curious person, especially an intellectually curious person. So I'm wondering, with your field placement, sort of honoring that it's an educational experience, what you're looking to learn from field placement.
At this point, I feel like I'm so open to any learning opportunity. I want to learn. I think it's going to be the best opportunity to learn cultural humility and practice it, apply what we've been doing in the classroom to real life, situations, but not, having it be somewhat of a safe space. Hopefully, I don't really know, where I'm going to go, but I am really open.
Yeah. You mentioned that you don't know where you're going to go. Do you have some preliminary ideas? Have you put some feelers out?
I do. I feel because I have a CJ background, and my family has my dad's a correctional officer, my brother's going into law enforcement, my dad's best friend who's a second dad, he's an officer, my uncle's a parole officer. This is what was built into my family. So I'm really interested in doing the Redwood City Police Department internship. And I haven't had the nerve to call yet, but I'm going to work on that. And I'm super passionate about child welfare and children growing up with every opportunity and resource, and really trying to ensure their happiness and success in life. So the Child Abuse Prevention Center is my second runner-up so far. Also haven't called them, but that's what I'm feeling for now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned that you're really passionate. You also mentioned, sort of some of the insights your professor had into some of the strengths that you could translate to social work. So I'm curious how you identify your strength as it relates to social work, and what are some of the skills that you can bring?
I feel passion is probably the strongest, skill or characteristic that I would bring. This is such important work. And it's very sensitive work, and I feel you have to have that passion and that commitment to the field and to the clients and to the community that you're serving to be able to be an effective social worker. So that's, I think, my biggest strength. And as far as kind of all the technical things that I can say, tell you as my strengths, I'm really organized, and I am what's the word, time efficient. Yeah,
good time management skills.
Yeah, time management skills, prioritizing. I'm really good relating with people. I think I have very good effective communication skills, and not just being able to verbally engage with people, but also to be an active listener, which I think is really important.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned really good communication skills, and I know you have a lot of retail experience. You currently work with young children. I'm sure you interact with their parents.
Yes.
I wonder if you could give me an example maybe of some time where you had conflict with a client or a customer, and how you handle that, and any information you can give about that.
Definitely. So when I worked in retail, I was a manager of a store. So typically, when my associates couldn't deal with a customer, it got referred to me. So the most important thing for me as a manager and in working with people is really to just listen. 90% of the time, I feel they just want to be heard. They want to know that I have a problem, I'm upset about something, I need you to hear me, and I need you to not respond until I'm done. Really giving them that open space to to vent their frustrations. So validating, their experience. So specifically, if I'm being very specific, it would be like, a customer would come into the store and want to return something that either didn't fit or they didn't like or whatever, but when they bought it, it was a non-returnable item.
Yeah.
But they're so upset because they didn't know, and, whatever issues they had. And I would, first address them like, oh, hey, I'm the manager, what's going on? Like, how can I help you? Giving them the space, letting them tell me everything that's, that they're feeling and what happened in their words, kind of repeating back to them, summarizing, okay, like, so this is what happened, I totally understand, like, I know how this is really frustrating, and I'm sorry that you're having to deal with this, and at that point, offering what I could as, like, alternate options for them.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, because I have the ability to like have some discretionary, decision making, I could do something that may not be what they wanted in full, but I think when you validate people and you give them that space and that respect and you honor like their situation, then they in turn will be more flexible with you and what you can do for them.
Yeah.
And so that was, I know it's not very specific, but that was like a consistent pattern in that line of work.
Well, I can definitely see how, validating, honoring people's experience, allowing people to label their own experience, offering the alternatives as you are able to, definitely I can see how those would translate to social work. So that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a great example. I'm wondering if there's any areas that you're not as comfortable with, any particular concerns you might have.
As far as like client populations or agencies?
Both of those would be good. So in terms of client population, also in terms of agency experiences, interactions, and other things that might occur.
So I did, when I first moved to San Francisco, I worked for a year with a nonprofit called Toolworks that provided services to people with developmental disabilities, adults with developmental disabilities. It was very challenging work, and I truly admire like everything that my coworkers and my bosses taught me. I admire them for what they taught me. And I think it's really important that people in those fields are very passionate about the people that they're helping and the community that they're helping. I was passionate about the work that I was doing, but I didn't feel a connection through the agency. I didn't feel a connection to the clients that would evoke that same passion from me. So I just felt like it just wasn't a good fit. So I think that population maybe is one that I'm not going to be best suited for working with. But I love that I got to have that experience already. Yeah. So I felt that out.
Yeah.
As far as the other agencies, I feel like the Unlock, like the senior center, like working with, the elder population, it's also not something that I'm not really that passionate about, not because I don't think they're deserving of services, but because I just feel like there's no connection there for me.
Well, it sounds like the connection aspect is really important.
It is really important to me. I think that
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I really think it's important for everyone. And I acknowledge it because I've had experiences with certain populations, like I've worked in the prison system. I've seen that population, I work with children now. I'm super passionate about them in a totally different way, I love them so much and I want to see like all these amazing things happen for them, and I want to be there in situations where children don't have that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe my interests are coming from like experience and familiarity and passion, like two different, but I'm also kind of thinking like I'd be really open to working, in schools, like maybe not so much like the infants, but high school or middle school, elementary school, whatever, like that would be something that I would like to explore. I do feel mostly open to, any population, team side, but right now I'm like sky's the limit.
Yeah. Well, I think your openness, your sort of curiosity, your enthusiasm, all of those elements are, I think, from what I understand, what field placement interviewers are really looking for. So I think you're going to be really successful. And I know you're not feeling the most confident right now, but, I have faith that you're going to do amazingly. And I think, like I said, I think you have a lot of skills. And even just here talking today, I've heard a lot of them. So do you have any other things you'd like to talk about, or anything you feel like I haven't covered? Any areas in terms of preparing for your field placement you'd like to work more on that I can help you with?
I think the only area that I would like to further explore, like in class, out of class, would be more cross-cultural experiences and how those have implications into our work and into our lives. Really having those kind of concepts on a conscious level at all times, and maybe also my own cultural identification, kind of working around self-reflection and analysis on that as well.
So it sounds like you want to kind of explore your own culture and then also think about, you know, what are your cross-cultural experiences and how do they relate to social work?
Yeah, definitely.
It sounds like that's also something you don't necessarily want to discuss today, if I'm understanding you correctly. Okay.
This is a lifelong process.
Okay, yeah, sounds good to me. Well, thank you for doing this with me today, and I wish you the best of luck.